Good morning, everybody. I guess whenever you start the right meeting, it's a lot easier to get everybody on here.
Would you get it together?
One of these days, maybe.
You're growing up. You really ever do that?
Everybody, just a couple more minutes here, and then we'll get going.
What are we listening to?
This is Foo Fighters. All right. Good morning, everybody. Go ahead and get started here. Since we got both going on and night going and everything, this is just a little bit about kind of keeping you motivated for learning stuff here. So,
of all the subjects we've covered so far and are about to cover, none is more important than covering the disciplines for success. What's at the core of achieving the good life? The major key to the good life. The major key is not in learning how to set goals. It is not in learning how to better manage your time. It is not in mastering the attributes of leadership. Every day in 1,000 different ways, we are trying to improve ourselves by learning how to do things. We spend a lifetime gathering knowledge in classrooms, in textbooks, in experiences. Now, if knowledge is power, if knowledge is the forerunner to success, then why do we fall short of our objectives? Why, in spite of all our knowledge and in spite of our collective experiences, do we find ourselves aimlessly wandering, settling for a life of existence rather than a life of substance? There may be many answers to this question. Your answers may be different than your associates or your spouses or your friends. While there may be many answers to this question, the fundamental answer is the absence of discipline. Applying all that we know. That's the key word, discipline, self-discipline. We might add one more word here, consistent. Consistent self-discipline. It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how much you know if you don't use it. It doesn't really matter that you graduated magna cum laude if you're stuck in a low-paying job. It doesn't really matter if you attended every seminar that comes to town if you don't apply what you've learned. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results. Refine our approach. Finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results. Admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success. And the ecstasy of that total experience makes for a life of triumph over tragedy, dullness, and mediocrity. But for this whole process to work for us, we must first master the art of discipline, self-discipline, consistent self-discipline. It takes consistent self-discipline to master the art of setting goals, to master the art of time management, to master the art of leadership, to master the art of parenting and relationships. If we don't make consistent self-discipline part of our daily lives, the results we seek will be sporadic and elusive. It takes a consistent effort to truly manage our valuable time, or we'll be consistently frustrated. Our time will be eaten up by others whose demands are stronger than our own. It takes discipline to conquer the nagging voices in our minds, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of poverty, the fear of a broken heart. It takes discipline to keep trying when that nagging voice within us brings up the possibility of failure. It takes discipline to admit our errors and recognize our limitations. The voice of the human ego speaks to all of us, Sometimes the voice of ego says that we should magnify our value beyond our results. It leads us to exaggerate, to not be totally honest. It takes discipline to be totally honest, both with ourselves and with others. Be certain of one thing: every exaggeration of the truth, once detected by others, destroys our credibility and makes all that we say and do suspect. As soon as a business colleague figures out that we tend to exaggerate, guess what? They'll always think we exaggerate, and they'll never quite hold us in the same regard again. The tendency to exaggerate, distort, or even withhold the truth is an inherent part of all of us. And only an all-out, disciplined assault can overcome this tendency. It takes discipline to change a habit, because habits are formed a little bit each day, every day, every day. Once habits are formed, they act like a giant cable. They act like a nearly unbreakable instinct that only long-term disciplined activity can change. We must unweave every strand of the cable of habits slowly and methodically until the cable that once held us in bondage becomes nothing more than scattered strands of wire. It takes the consistent application of a new discipline, a more desirable one, to overcome one which is less desirable. It takes discipline to plan. It takes discipline to execute our plan. It takes discipline to look with full objectivity at the results of our applied plan. And it takes discipline to change either our plan or our method of executing that plan if the results are poor. It takes discipline to be firm when the world throws opinions at our feet. It takes discipline to ponder the value of someone else's opinion when our pride and our arrogance leads us to believe that we are the only ones with the answers. Discipline is a constant human awareness of the need for action and a conscious act by us to implement that action. Discipline is an awareness of the constant need for action and a conscious act to implement that action. If our awareness and our implementations occur at the same time, then we begin a valued sequence of disciplined activity. Now, here's the other side of discipline. If there's considerable time that passes between the moment of awareness and the time of our implementation, then that is called procrastination. Doing it tomorrow instead of today. Procrastination, an almost exact opposite of discipline. The voice within us says, get it done. Discipline then says, do it now. Do it to the best of your ability, today, tomorrow, and always, until finally the worthy deed becomes instinctive. Procrastination says later, tomorrow, whenever I get a chance. Procrastination also says, do what is necessary to get by or to impress others. Do what you can, but not what you must. In every circumstance we face, we are constantly presented with these two choices: do it now or do it later, discipline and procrastination. A choice between a disciplined existence bearing the fruit of achievement and contentment, or procrastination, the easy life for which the future will bear no fruit, only the bare branches of mediocrity. The rewards of a disciplined life are great, but they're often delayed until some time in the future. The rewards for the lack of discipline are immediate, but they are minor in comparison to the immeasurable rewards of consistent self-discipline. An immediate reward for lack of discipline is a fun day at the beach. A future reward of discipline is owning the beach. For most, we choose today's pleasure rather than tomorrow's fortune. So how can you get rid of the easy distractions? How can you keep your mind on what you're trying to do? How can you keep an attitude of doing it all and doing it now? How can you make the choice of discipline over procrastination? How can you stay focused on your ambitions? How can you avoid conversations at the water cooler? You can keep your focus on your work. You can get it done today instead of tomorrow. You've got to really work on your consistent self-discipline on a daily basis, or you'll find yourself distracted. Distracted by negative thoughts, distracted by negative people, distracted by water cooler chatter, and pretty soon, depending on the type of people you've associated with, distracted by your doubts within yourself. Never underestimate the power of influence and associations, and never underestimate the power of your own consistent self-discipline. Now let's take a closer look at discipline. True discipline is not the easiest option. Most people would rather sleep until 10 o'clock than get up at 6. It's easier to go to bed late, sleep late, show up late, leave early. It's easier not to read. It's easier to turn on the television than to open a book. It's easier to do just enough than to do it all. Waiting is always easier than acting. Trying is always easier than doing. Imagine what life would be like if we didn't have to make our bed in the morning, or keep our garage clean, or pay our taxes, or show up for work tomorrow. Wouldn't it be fascinating if we didn't have to do these things? Wouldn't it be fascinating? What do you suppose would become of us? You're right, not much. For whatever the reason, the system we live in and contribute to is designed to make the easiest things in life the most unprofitable. Profitable seems to be the most difficult. Our world is and always will be a constant battle between the life of ease and its momentary rewards and a life of discipline and its far more significant rewards. Each has its own price, the price of discipline or the price of regret. We will pay one or the other. What we wish we had done is the voice of regret, speaking in a sorrowful tone at a time when there is no going back. This is regret. No second chance. No what would I do differently. Choose one or the other, but both will have their price, the price of discipline or the price of regret. One costs pennies, the other a fortune. Dostoevsky said, "There are hundreds of young men who would die for the truth, but very few who would spend 5 years studying to know what the truth is."
One thing I want to say, yes, discipline and everything is needed, but every once in a while you do have to take today's pleasure because if you don't, you'll burn yourself out. I did like this video because in a general way, yes, but you can't do that every single day. You do have to take time out or you will just totally burn yourself out. One thing that I wrote down that I really liked was it doesn't matter how smart you are if you don't use it. I know a lot of people like that I went to school with, very smart people that, you know, they just didn't do anything with it in their life. And I see where they're at now. And the decisions you make in life really affect how you end up later. But if you don't use your brain, then yeah, somebody else will. So anybody else get anything?
I need a little more discipline in my life.
Right.
But Floyd, the piece I took out of that was do it now or do it later, procrastination or discipline, or how does it fit into or why?
Right.
Then act.
Right.
So because if it is choosing, hey, like for me, I take the Sabbath, I take 24 hours off from real estate, and I have to do that. That's part of my why. Right. Well, then I know, hey, like last night at 8:30, that was the end of my 24 hours. I had an opportunity, prayed about it, boom, took it. Was blessed by that, by making that call at 8:30, not 8:15, not 8:10. Right. But even in that way, and that can be a little legalistic to some regards, but I'm learning a new habit. Right. And it's hard and it sucks because I'm freaking out because I'm like, where's the next paycheck coming from? Exactly. But also that was something I had lived in there myself as I was going through that. And also how discipline destroys the procrastination. Because procrastination just lurks around every corner. Right. And to what you're saying there, you do have to kind of be a little bit greedy with it whenever you do take your time off. Because I mean, it's really easy for us, like whenever we're, you know, having the day off or whatever, you know, get a phone call to go ahead and answer it and do, you know what I mean? But doing that, you're basically defeating your whole purpose of taking that time off, you know, to recharge and you know,
So yeah, I mean, it is difficult because I mean, especially if it's somebody you know calling, hey, and hey, I could probably help them or whatever, but like you said, just wait until that, that extra 15 minutes, you know what I mean? It might have been the whole thing.
It was bedtime for my kids.
Yeah.
We're getting dishes done for the wife. I mean, those are bigger whys to me than that next real estate.
Right.
And that was 5 minutes. That wasn't a procrastination. That was, I said I committed to make that later.
Exactly.
And I also communicated with them right through that. And that was hard. It was uncomfortable, but it was powerful, important.
Yeah.
Kind of a playing flag moment, if you will. For me.
And most of your clients, I mean, they'll understand too. I mean, granted, I do have the clients that think, we just sit around, twiddle our thumbs all day and, wait for people to call us. But for the most part, they understand that we're pretty much nonstop. And so if you tell one of your clients, hey, I'm taking the day off, 9 times out of 10, unless it's some kind of emergency or something, they're going to understand. I mean, we kind of get it in our head that, we're going to be letting people down, but you're really not, because everybody has to take time off.
We said,
I to be honest, I don't agree with that. I don't tell people I take off. When I take off, I don't, because every time, and I've had people saying, oh, I've had a client saying, it's my birthday. Oh, I was telling them it's my birthday. I was really taking off because, well, I just really want to look at this house. You're like, are you kidding me?
Right.
People don't care. I mean, you just kind of have to, I set boundaries, and then I don't tell them when I'm taking off, very rarely.
no. And we don't have to give a reason why. Hey, I'm gonna call you back and hey, I'll give you a ring tomorrow morning, or I'll give you a ring in 2 hours. Well, you know the why.
Right.
I'm that.
Right.
Whether somebody's getting a hair done or whether I'm at the ER, that's my business.
Right. Exactly. And to that point, whenever you are taking that time off, that's your time. So you're exactly right. I mean, nobody needs to have to know exactly what you're doing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I wrote down, habits are formed a little bit each day. Even just little things that you don't necessarily always realize or see until later on when they become something big. Just one little action every single day turns into a habit, and good habits are good and bad habits are bad. So, I mean, you just have to make sure you're being aware of the things that you're doing, the little time killers and stuff that, a few minutes here or there on Facebook, which I'm very bad about. Because I have my notification set. So like whenever my ads and stuff, if somebody clicks on or whatever, well, it lets me know when anything happens. So anytime something happens, I go, what was that? Go check it. And that's 5-10 minutes, that I wasted for that day, but or at that time. So you just kind of have to be very aware of little things too throughout the day that you do. Anybody else?
My biggest takeaway from this was you either have to go through the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Choose your battles.
Right.
So.
Right. That's a big thing. Is anybody taking bold?
I wouldn't say.
Well, I mean, yeah. That's one of the big things in bold. That and another thing is it's progress, not perfection. You're not going to start out tomorrow being disciplined and doing all these things exactly right. I mean, it takes time to develop the habits and to get into doing things like that. So it's not an overnight thing. It's something you have to work on continually. And
build habits every day.
Yeah. And like I said, nobody's perfect, what I mean? So you just can't, whenever you do catch yourself either, going wrong direction, where you just have to be able to pull yourself back and just get back in, back on track. Another thing I liked was talking about the difference between going to the beach for the day and owning the beach. I really like that, but then again, every once in a while you do have to take a day to go to the beach, or you'll end up in the funny farm.
Well, there's consequences for both.
Right.
If you go to the beach, it's kind of like renting a boat or owning a boat.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to both.
Right.
Same with the beach. Like there's going to be work. There's going to be time involved there.
Right.
And how does that apply back to your why,
right,
to your purpose, to your family, to your business? I mean, if you go down through even just our core values, and I took this away from one of my coaches of, hey, it's God, family, business. Well, he added in their wealth. He said, God, family, wealth, business. Without wealth, you don't have a business.
Right.
Without wealth, you can't, I mean, you can't honor God, you can't
Right.
honor your family, those types of things. So those were a couple pieces I thought about that too, and that's from, there's a book, it's one of the minimalistic books. I can't remember what it's called, but we read it at some point in time. And that goes back to, hey, every decision you make has a cost in terms of time applied to that.
Right.
And what does that
Exactly.
cost?
Right.
How does it apply to your bank?
Exactly.
So,
And sometimes it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just a thing. I mean, it's just,
yeah.
Anybody else have anything?
I got one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then Julie challenged me to get on the pivot shift call
Mhm.
every morning at 7. I haven't done it every morning at 7. I put it on my calendar. I've started doing it to be on the call. I haven't even turned the video on yet. Baby steps, little habits. I
Right.
normally finish it up at the gym and nobody really wants to see that. But we're like 48 people away from hitting 100,000 like group.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, it has been powerful I don't enjoy reading. I've learned probably 20, 30 pages out of the shift book without ever cracking it.
Really?
For me. And the other thing too is that they talk about the market. I'm learning something to start my day, Monday through Friday. And if y'all want to jump on that, you can also get on the page and watch. Like I say, like there's some people that just can't watch it in the morning.
Right.
But you can jump on. I just finished it and I listened to it on the Facebook Live that was recorded
Right.
today. So that's something to get in there and apply. But I know we're shooting for a goal of 100,000 for today. We have 48 left. We might already be at it. But I was gonna say, if any of y'all need something in the morning, they start off and tell me something good.
Right.
And hearing that at 7 o'clock in the morning is way better than sometimes the things I tell my brain. And that's why I started doing it and why I keep doing it. So if y'all need a place to go, if anybody needs the link, I'll share it out on the Facebook page.
Okay.
That. So that way if any of y'all will look at it, join, it's a good small habit. It's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, it's just the pivot and it's shift ahead, or is it just
It's pivot shift. James Shaw is
Okay.
James
James Shaw.
Yep.
okay? Cool.
It's
Cool.
just like a Facebook group.
Yep. And then they do a Zoom call daily, and there's several people that break out from there. My next step is to give them a script call because I need to practice my scripts. I've been skipping it for weeks. It's on my calendar.
Yeah.
I need to do that. But that's, hey, sometimes you need somebody else.
Yeah,
Theory.
James Saul is a real good script guy. They were his thing on one of the virtual builds or whatever, and yeah, he's really good with scripts and stuff.
That's awesome.
Very cool. All righty. Well, y'all have a great Monday. Bold start to Wednesday, not last Wednesday. And then got a night going on this week too. And so anyway, y'all have a great week. If you need me, you know where I'm at. And I'll
Appreciate it, Coy. Have a great one.
see y'all later.
Thanks, Coy.